Easter Sunday, 1457. Targoviste, the capital of Wallachia. The great hall is warm. Candlelight, wine, the smell of roasted meat. Wallachia's oldest and most powerful noble families, the boyars, sit at long tables dressed in their finest clothes for the holiest feast of the Christian calendar. Their prince, young and only recently secured on his throne, moves through the hall greeting them by name, smiling, pouring wine with his own hand for men twice his age. By most accounts, it is, by any outward appearance, a celebration. A new ruler honoring the old families who built the kingdom he now leads. What almost none of them know, what only their host has spent nearly a decade quietly remembering, is that this exact room, 10 years earlier, is where some of these same families made the decision that destroyed his father and buried his older brother alive. He has waited years to be powerful enough to do something about it. Tonight, the waiting ends. This is the true story of Vlad III's Easter Reckoning, one of the most calculated acts of political vengeance in medieval European history, and the brutal, years-long construction project it produced, one still standing today. To understand why this feast happened the way it did, you have to go back to December of 1447, the event that turned a grieving teenager into a man who would spend the next decade planning a very specific kind of justice. Vlad's father, also named Vlad, remembered as Vlad Dracula, had ruled Wallachia while trying to balance impossible pressure from two directions: the Kingdom of Hungary to the north and the Ottoman Empire to the south. Survival meant constantly shifting alliances, and in the brutal politics of the era, that made him enemies on every side. In 1447, a coalition moved against him. Hungarian-backed forces working with Wallachian nobles who saw an opportunity to install a ruler more favorable to their own interests. Among those nobles, members of the very boyar class who had always resented how much power the ruling family held over them. Vlad Dracula was killed in the marshes near Balteni, reportedly hunted down while trying to flee. His oldest son, Vlad's older brother Mircea, only about 17, was captured separately in Targoviste itself. According to multiple historical accounts, his eyes were burned out, and he was buried alive by the men who took the city. At the time, young Vlad, the future Impaler, not yet 20 years old himself, was hundreds of miles away, still held as an Ottoman hostage alongside his younger brother Radu. He learned what had happened to his father and brother the way a prisoner learns anything: late, second-hand, and powerless to do a single thing about it. He would not become ruler of Wallachia in any lasting way for almost another decade. And for every one of those years, the men responsible, the boyar families who had backed the coup or simply benefited from it and said nothing, continued sitting in the same council halls, attending the same feasts, holding the same land. He did not forget a single name. By 1456, Vlad had finally secured the Wallachian throne with real, lasting military backing. His first year in power, by most historical accounts, was spent consolidating control, watching, and quietly making a list. Historians generally agree the guest list for that Easter feast in 1457 was not random. It specifically included the boyar families connected, directly or indirectly, to the coup that had killed his father and brother a decade earlier, including some of the very men believed to have carried out the killing themselves. Some accounts add a detail almost too theatrical to believe, and yet it's repeated across multiple sources. That Vlad, at some point during the feast, asked the older boyars present a simple question: how many princes did they remember ruling in their lifetimes? Wallachia's throne, in the decades before Vlad, had changed hands constantly, sometimes multiple rulers in a single year, as different factions of boyars installed and removed princes to suit their own interests. Some of the oldest men at that table could reportedly count 7, 10, even more princes across their lifetime. Each answer, according to the story, confirmed something Vlad already understood perfectly. These were the men who made and unmade rulers whenever it suited them. The same instability that let outsiders help kill his father. The same system that had left a 17-year-old buried alive in the ground while his younger brothers rotted as hostages in a foreign court. The wine kept pouring, the candles kept burning, and somewhere in that hall, the feast that looked like a celebration had already become something else entirely. What happened next is described, with slight variations, across multiple historical sources, Vlad Chronicles, and later, more sensationalized German pamphlets that were already hostile to Vlad's reputation. The core of the event, though, is treated by most historians as broadly accurate, even if some specific numbers were likely exaggerated afterward. Vlad's guards moved through the hall. The oldest boyars present, the ones judged responsible by age and position for the events of 1447, were seized where they sat. Accounts differ on exact details, but the broad outcome is consistent. Many of the oldest men were executed that same day, several by impalement, the method Vlad had already begun using as his signature form of punishment, and would later turn into the weapon that stopped an Ottoman army, in a story this channel has already told. But he did not kill everyone in that hall. The younger boyars, men judged too young to have personally taken part in the killing of his father and brother, but who came from the same families, benefited from the same system, and had simply inherited their position, were spared execution. Spared, but not forgiven. According to the accounts, Vlad had a different fate prepared for them, one that would take considerably longer than a single afternoon to finish.
Roughly 50 miles northwest of Targoviste, perched on a cliff above the Argeș River, stood the ruins of an old fortress, Poenari. Partially collapsed, strategically valuable, and in desperate need of rebuilding if Vlad intended to use it as a stronghold against future threats, whether from the Ottomans, from Hungary, or from his own nobility. The younger boyars and their families, according to the accounts, this included the women and children of these households as well, were not given horses or carts or any of the comfort their rank would normally afford. They were made to walk, still in the fine clothing they had worn to the Easter feast, the day everything changed. The distance from Targoviste to Poenari is roughly 50 miles of difficult terrain, forests, hills, river crossings. For nobility unaccustomed to hard travel on foot, it would have taken several exhausting days. But the walking, historians note, was only the beginning of their sentence. Once they reached Poenari, they were put to work, rebuilding the fortress with their own hands, hauling stone, mixing mortar, raising walls, under guard, with no rest and no release date. Multiple accounts describe the same striking detail, repeated often enough across sources that historians treated as likely accurate in substance, even if slightly embellished in the telling. That these nobles labored in the same fine Easter clothing they had arrived in, because no other clothing was provided to them, and that they worked until those clothes, quite literally, rotted and fell apart from their bodies under the strain of manual labor, sun, and rain. Stone by stone, the fortress that would become one of Vlad's most important strongholds was rebuilt by the hands of the very families who had once helped destroy his own.
Some historical accounts suggest a portion of the survivors were eventually released once the work was finished. Others simply go quiet on what became of them afterward, an absence that, in its own way, says something too. Poenari Castle still stands today, on that same cliff above the Argesh River. A ruin now, but a real one. Stone that was, according to the accounts passed down for over 5 centuries, laid by hands that had no choice in the matter.
So what do we call this? An act of justice. A ruler finally holding accountable the exact men who had orchestrated his father's death and his brother's live burial after a decade of watching them face no consequences at all. Many Wallachians at the time, and many Romanians since, have read it exactly that way. Or an act of calculated generational cruelty, punishing children for the choices of their fathers, marching families to their labor in the clothes they'd worn to what they believed was a celebration. The historical record supports that reading just as clearly. What's certain is this: Vlad III did not act in a single moment of rage. He waited nearly a decade. He remembered every name. And when the moment finally came, he built something permanent out of it. A fortress that still stands, built by the very hands he considered responsible for what he'd lost. Grief, given 10 years to sit, rarely stays simple. Sometimes it becomes a wall. Sometimes it becomes a warning. For Vlad III, it became both, built stone by the people he blamed most. If you've followed this channel from the beginning, you already know where this story goes next. The forest of the impaled, and the empire that retreated from it. And if you saw what may have happened to his body 500 years later, you know this isn't a man history has finished arguing about. Every week, we go back into the true history behind the legend the world calls Dracula. The wars, the betrayals, and now, the debt, a decade in the making, finally paid at an Easter feast. Subscribe if you think you can handle what justice actually cost. We'll see you in the next Chronicle.